What is up, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Don't Say the F Word, a pro wrestling and combat sports podcast where we do not use the F word when we talk about professional wrestling, and you shouldn't let your friends use it either. It is Sunday morning. We are following up a little bit on some of the events from UFC 282 last night. A card with some pretty good matches. Not a lot of people too excited about the main event. A lot of people, some controversy with Paddy the Baddy Pimblett, which is probably going to be kind of most of what I talk about here. As far as UFC 282 goes, we're also going to talk a little bit about Ring of Honor. We immediately followed up on Ring of Honor Final Battle right after the show last night. Really, really good pay-per-view. And that's really kind of where I want to start. Ring of Honor, since Tony Khan has taken Ring of Honor over, has put together very, very good shows. Here's the problem with those shows. They're not Ring of Honor shows. These shows have been AEW shows. They've been filled to the top with AEW talent. They have had storylines that have solely progressed on AEW TV because there is no Ring of Honor TV currently. If you hear something in the background, I am actually rewatching Grapplefest 14. Anyone who enjoys combat sports, I see pro wrestling as a combat sport, so I lump it in. I enjoy MMA. I enjoy bare knuckle boxing. I enjoy combat jiu-jitsu. I enjoy just straight submission grappling. It's part of the things that have made me me. But so if you have Fight Plus, you can catch Grapplefest 14. It's a great showcase of some great martial artists and submission artists and grapplers. Really a good show. But anyway, back to the Ring of Honor conversation, because in the media scrum that followed, which we were watching a little bit as we recorded yesterday's podcast, Tony Khan revealed that he's revamping Honor Club, which is what Ring of Honor did a lot of their video library was on prior to Tony Khan purchasing Ring of Honor. It's where you could go back and catch Ring of Honor events very similar to actually Fight Plus, which is what I'm watching Grapplefest 14 on right now. So it was a subscription-based program, not unlike AEW Plus for those of you outside of the US, anyone in the UK. I believe AEW Plus might be in Australia also. But anywhere outside the US, I think there's a lot of options for folks to get AEW Plus, which is a subscription-based program. It's available through Fight TV. It may also be available through Bleacher Report. I'm not positive on that. But it's like $5 a month, I think, for AEW Plus if you're in the UK. And the paywall for Ring of Honor is going to be $9.99. And there's a lot of people discussing online. I seen it this morning. Just a lot of folks are upset that it's going to be put behind a paywall. That they want $10 a month to catch a weekly show for Ring of Honor. Tony Khan may have said that it was going to include the pay-per-views. I'm not positive on that, to be honest, and I'll look it up later. But people are mad that it's going to be behind a paywall. The other topic of conversation about the Ring of Honor show last night was I guess, some people's perspective, the lack of fans in attendance for the show. And that they feel as though it was a low turnout, low crowd. I don't know if Tony Khan mentioned the media scrum, because I don't know that it's important. I feel like people who, and this is very akin to the internet wrestling community, and you go back to like 2017, 2018 WWE, it was a huge talking point of WWE shows, that no one was showing up to SmackDown, and the arena was empty. And I find it interesting that the people who want to comment on the attendance of a wrestling event are the people watching it at home. Or oftentimes they're not even watching the show. You'll have people who will comment that, oh, well, there was record low attendance for this AEW event or this WWE event. And you ask me, well, I mean, did you watch it live? No, I caught the clips. I seen it on Twitter. Someone posted a picture. If you're not even watching the show on TV, how can you feel some type of way that people didn't go out to see it? There's a lot of factors that come into a lot of these gates and these attendance, and for these shows, you have to factor in, and I don't even know where the Ring of Honor event was held. But, if you're in the northern part of the United States right now, northeast part, you could have bad weather. You could have it be in an area that, if we're coming into the holiday season, people are spending money on gifts. They're not spending money on doing things themselves, generally speaking. And you're also talking about a brand that doesn't have a huge TV deal like your WWE, like your AEW. So I don't know that you should expect a Ring of Honor pay-per-view to be a sellout crowd. I also don't think it matters for the show. Right now, currently in 2022, we're going into 2023, pro wrestling is a TV product. Pro wrestling used to be, you go back into the 70s, 80s, 80s, it was a live product. It was about the gates. It was about selling out arenas. And TV was used to sell those tickets. That's why you'd have commercials shot for regional shows. And they would talk about where they were going to be, and they'd talk about the upcoming show. I'm just outside of Cleveland, so I have memories of Hogan and King Kong Bundy and Savage talking about being at the Richfield Coliseum and all those kinds of things. Well, that's not what the product is for anymore. The product is for TV. It's a television show. It's made for TV specifically. So the attendance, the crowd's part of the show. It creates an atmosphere that people want to tune into. So as long as it looks good on TV, truthfully, as a fan, that's what matters to me. Because I wasn't at the Ring of Honor show. Now, I've been at shows that didn't have great attendance, and I'm not going to say what promotion it was. But I've been there, and you know what? I noticed that there wasn't a sellout crowd, but I still loved every bit of the show. I loved every bit of the experience. I had a great time. Going to pro wrestling is always a good time if you're a wrestling fan. It's like going and watching MMA live if you're an MMA fan. Those of you who've never been to a live MMA event, you've never attended a UFC or a local, one of your regional promotions, nothing. If you've never been at a live MMA event, I'm going to let you in on something. It's terrible to try to watch a fight live in an arena. It is. If you have good seats, if you have floor seats at a live MMA event with a cage, you have terrible seats. If you paid top dollar to be as close as possible to the cage, your seats are awful for watching the product. So I ask you, why does it matter that there was low attendance at Ring of Honor? It doesn't matter. As a fan, I don't know why you would comment. It's about enjoying the product that you're seeing when you're seeing it. You can watch it. It's better to watch MMA televised. It's better. It's 100% better. If you go and you talk to guys who have, cornered people or been in the locker room of an MMA event, if there was a monitor to watch what was happening backstage, as opposed to going out, in the arena or behind the curtain, they're watching on the monitor. You have a better vantage point. You'll hear commentators all say they're watching from their monitor. They're not looking through the cage. Now, that does kind of skew what you see a little bit, but in wrestling, you're seeing the product. It's good. It's good TV product all the time. And Ring of Honor was a good pay-per-view. It was a good show. So I don't understand why fans are hung up on the live gate attendance. To me, it's really a non-issue. Like 100% a non-issue. If it's hurting the business side for Tony Khan, he expected that going in. He knew Ring of Honor wasn't going to generate a ton of revenue out the gate. So that's why he wants to put the TV product behind a paywall, because he hasn't secured a TV deal. This is something I don't necessarily agree with. I don't have a problem with it. It's, I think there's a lot of streaming services out there. I think people are paying a lot out to different services. So I think that whenever you have, an additional thing coming up, and you have, right now I pay whatever I paid for the year of Fight TV, Fight Plus, and you have those things where, sometimes that's not really economical for someone. I think Ring of Honor would have been better suited for YouTube. You know what? I remember now. Tony Khan said that the pay-per-views were going to be on 90 days after they aired. They would be available on Honor Club, the streaming service. So you'll be 3 months behind. I don't think it's a great idea from a business standpoint because I think you're creating a paywall to try and get new people interested in your product. Your hardcore fans, your guys who are, watching pro wrestling and to create content in there, doing podcasts like this or whatever it is they're doing, they're gonna watch it. They're gonna pay. You already have those customers. So if you're trying to grow something, you can't look to just cater to the customers you have. You have to cater to the customers you want to get. You can't put that product behind a paywall and expect to get new eyes on it. If the idea is to get a TV deal, I don't see how a paywall helps. I think you would have been better suited to take one of the dark shows, Dark Elevation or AEW Dark. I've said this so many times, I feel like I just keep saying it. So there's a good chance this may be the last time I say this. Ring of Honor should take the place of one of the AEW YouTube shows. It should replace either Dark or Dark Elevation on YouTube to get as many eyes on it as possible in a way that is easy, so you can show TV distributors that, hey, Ring of Honor has a fan base that branches off from AEW, and people will tune in because I'm getting this many views on YouTube. Ring of Honor's YouTube channel has this many subscribers. I don't know how you can present that in a way of, we have some people who are paying $10 a month. You already have those people. They're going back and watching the old stuff. And those people have probably already seen a lot of the old stuff. I don't think that the Ring of Honor paywall is going to be a money-making venture for Ring of Honor as a whole. Right? I don't know that, or if you were going to do it, maybe make it a monthly thing to have the video library and maybe the weekly show that you did on YouTube and throw the pay-per-views in, or give the pay-per-view away on YouTube. Maybe give away the pay-per-view and get people to pay the weekly shows. They can catch the pay-per-views for free, but they don't know what the build-up was. I don't know. To me, it doesn't make a lot of sense to create a hurdle for your customers to get to your product. It's business 101. Make it easy for your customer to get the product they want. So if customers want a Ring of Honor product, don't put it behind a paywall if you want new customers to want it. Right now, I don't think you're building new customers for Ring of Honor. I think anyone who paid for the pay-per-view last night is just a wrestling fan. They're not necessarily a Ring of Honor fan because it was not a Ring of Honor show. It was very heavy AEW because it has to be right now. So I don't know really how you create a new Ring of Honor fan base. You're just going to hope that you have leftover Ring of Honor fans that are watching the AEW product who are going to now pay for Honor Club to watch the weekly show for Ring of Honor. And that's not going to be 100% of your fan base. It just isn't. It's probably not going to be 25% of the AEW fan base that purchase Honor Club. If they may purchase it here and there, they may pick up a month and drop off, and maybe pick up a month, and they'll get an email of, if you get 3 months, we're going to cut you a deal. So they'll get 3 months, and then they'll forget, and they'll have a 4th month, and then they'll cancel it because trying to watch them and that many products cost so many different things isn't easy as a consumer. So I don't think they're making the right decision to build the Ring of Honor brand. Here's the thing. I'm not the billionaire involved. I'm a fan. So whatever you're going to do to give me some more pro wrestling, as long as it's going to be top shelf pro wrestling, I'm all for it. I just don't think that you're going to build the brand up strongly by putting it behind that paywall. I don't know how you're going to do that, but I hope it works, and I hope we get more great pro wrestling out of it. I hope it's an opportunity to relieve some pressure on the AEW roster, get guys on TV more, and have some clear division between the two brands. Because I think that's something that's of the utmost importance right now, is showing that they aren't the same brand. If this is the way to do it, I think it's great. If it gives guys an opportunity, if it gives talent an opportunity to make some money, I absolutely think it's fantastic. Whatever creates more jobs, creates more places for people to practice their art, I support it 100%. I just don't know that it's going to bring more fans to that product. But I hope it does. I'm optimistic. I hope that it works. But I do think they've put together great pay-per-views over the time that Tony Khan has had the company. So I think the weekly show could be good. I don't know if Tony will be booking that heavily. Tony's taking some criticism for his booking of AEW currently. And I don't agree with a lot of the criticisms. I do agree with some of them. I do think there are some things to be worked on, but it's a growing pain. This company hasn't been around for 50 plus years. This company's been around for 3, possibly 4-ish, I guess. And in that time, you've had a lot of major changes. You've had a lot of important people in the company not be there anymore. You also went through a pandemic. So a lot of things have happened in a very short time frame AEW has existed. I think Booker T is wrong that it's going to be done in 2 years. But I also think that headline was taken out of context. I actually haven't listened to where Booker said that. So I feel like there's probably some things taken out of context to create that headline at clickbait. But I think that AEW is a very strong company. And I think that getting Ring of Honor up and running on its own independently away from AEW is an opportunity to get AEW stronger because you won't have so much bloat and so many people you can't see regularly. I don't know. I think that they put together great pay-per-views. I just think the YouTube would have been the way to go with the Ring of Honor product. I think it would have been a good opportunity to showcase viewership for it and an interest in it. Whenever we talk about the UFC last night at 282, they had MJF show up. He showed up with the AEW belt. I didn't see any interaction between him and Patty the Batty Pimplett. I think it was just a good opportunity for some social media posts to show that Max actually showed up to Vegas with that belt. Good on him. Good on AEW to get a little attention from some mainstream media outlets. I don't think we need to go into making Max be involved in something that's not his thing. I don't think that needs to be part of the shtick where he's going to be showing up to UFC events and calling out UFC fighters because they're not going to do anything with it. So don't make it exist. It's like DC and Brock in UFC. We did that whole big thing, all that hoopla. We stalled the heavyweight division, acting like Brock was going to come back, and he was just negotiating contracts. So let's not play around with the idea that MJF is going to the UFC. That's not happening. That's not realistic. Regardless of how much Mark the Monster may think that MJF is going to wipe the mat with Patty the Batty, MJF needs to remain in AEW and make that belt as prestigious as possible. And I think he will do that. Patty's matchup, I watched that. You never know what judges are going to see in a UFC fight. I don't think I've seen it the way they've seen it. Again, you're not at their vantage point. You're not seeing what they're seeing. But to me, Patty lost round 1. Round 2, I think, was kind of close. And round 3 was a lack of action entirely. But I think Flash Gordon controlled Patty that entire round. You can make the argument, yeah, he didn't do anything with that control, but I don't remember ever being told you had to do something with the control. I was told that, from my days of fighting, my days of coaching people, my being around that environment, I was always told by officials, control. Control is vital. And Patty had no control in the third round. He was being held against the fence. Should Herb have stepped in and separated him? You can make that argument. You can make a lot of arguments against Herb Dean's officiating over the years, though. There were a lot of opportunities where I think Herb should have stopped fights. I think there were times where Herb stopped fights and shouldn't have stopped fights. And I think whenever he stopped fights that shouldn't have been stopped, it was to benefit the person who was the victor. Not saying that it's anything other than it is, but I just think that there's been times fighters should have been allowed to continue and it was stopped. Maybe Herb Dean and many other officials I've seen this. Was Patty ever in trouble? No. He got hit a few good times, sure. He talked about his ankle, but felt as though he won that fight decisively, and he did not win that fight decisively. I don't know who could ever see it that way. That wasn't what happened in that fight. And Joe told you it was a close fight in the octagon, and it absolutely was. If you'll make an argument that he won, okay, but he didn't dominate in any fashion, and it wasn't very clear to me that he was the victor. So I'll leave my comments on the Patty thing and the UFC 282 at that. We should have a good week of pro wrestling coming up. We have Winter is Coming, so we have MJF and Ricky Starks for the world title on Wednesday. I would imagine that's going to be used to just build a separate, story to follow. Whoever that'll be the next contender for Max's title. I don't see a world where Ricky Starks beats MJF on Wednesday. But, we once had Mox beat CM Punk out of nowhere. So, yeah, I mean, you never really know. If you want to create must-see TV, I guess you could do that. The element that anything could happen, but I don't think you should do anything to taint the MJF run with that title. Aside from an injury happening, I really feel like MJF should have a very, very long AEW title run. I think he should possibly be the guy to hold it the longest up to the time that he loses it. I think he should just surpass anyone else has championed for a amount of time holding the belt. I think it will be important. I think it's important to make sure Max is treated like he's special, to make sure that title is treated special. Again, Grapple Fest 14 is a great show, and you can probably hear it over the mic. But I just think they got to keep MJF special, keep that AEW World title special, make sure people want to tune in. He needs to remain top heel in pro wrestling so people want to see him lose, and you just don't let it happen. Just keep letting Max win and remaining champion however he has to do it. I don't think you overbook his finishes. You have to do dirty things here and there. I think he should. But I think he just needs to hold on to that title, possibly until 2024. Let me know what you guys think. You can find us on social media. It's at Don't Say the F Word Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We are on YouTube at the Don't Say the F Word Podcast. Feel free to comment on anything. There's a section where you can leave a voice message on the podcast on Spotify. Let us know what you think. When should MJF lose? Who should take the belt off of MJF? People love to speculate of who should do it with Roman. I think there's a lot of opportunities with Roman of ways you could do that. We'll probably talk about that later on in the week as we're looking to set up some other interviews and stuff. But I'll probably do a Who Dethrones Roman podcast at some point this week. But who should be the one to take the big Burberry belt off of MJF? Let me know on social media, anywhere. It's Don't Say the F Word Podcast. Guys, that's it for me today. Just want to touch on that Honor Club thing. So please like, share, subscribe. Let your friends know about the podcast. We're going to be looking to cover some more bare-knuckle fighting championship athletes and what's going on in their world. Try and get some the athletes from Grapple Fest onto the show so we can talk to them and hear about their journey in martial arts and what they're looking to build for their careers, and bring some eyes on different elements of MMA. It's not just MMA as a whole. There's pieces and parts, and those things are sports that stand on their own, and they come together to create something awesome in MMA. But that's it, guys. This is the Don't Say the F Word Podcast, where we do not use the F word when we talk about professional wrestling, and you shouldn't let your friends use it either. See you next time.